till about 10 o'clock this evening. Right, so we're starting off with B-side from King Jammy's label, King Jammy's Productions, and we'll get the ball rolling with this first tune.
Cherry out. There are many different kind of herbs, but herbs is herbs. Give us a license so we can sell the herbs.
Give we a license, better give we a license. Give we a license, better give we a license. Give we a license, better give we a license. To smoke and spit. Ladies and leaders will take that weed, rubber split. Take that weed, rubber split.
Kennedy, now Martin Luther King, Peter Tosh and Bob Marley. Herb was one of their favorite things.
Okay, you're in tune to Arrow FM 92.7. This is Stephanie taking you through till 10. That was our first Jamaican vinyl B-side, and that was from the studios down in Kingston 11 Waterhouse area from King Jammy's small little studio down there. I know, like these days, his studios are like a lot bigger, that can cater for like acoustic bands and everything, but back in those days when he just first started out, he started out from his girlfriend at that time, partners or long-time girlfriend's house, and his studio was in like one of the bedrooms. So because you only needed really like a small studio, because all you really needed was, and there was a drum machine and keyboards, when like the music from this age was like digital and computer-based rhythms. Right, so we've just got like a couple more of King Jammy's productions, and I'll let this B-side run. Yeah, Jamaican 45s, and that was a King Jammy's release. And that rhythm was a massive rhythm in Jamaica when it came out, probably mid to late 80s, and quite a few artists would have sung over that amazing rhythm that came out of West Kingston. That might have had Stealing Clevey on drum machine and keyboards, but I know they did like a lot of production or like work from coming out from King Jammy Studios and that. So I guess the product or like the producer could be like a bit of a grey area, because he might have just been sitting back in the background saying, yeah, play this rhythm or play that rhythm or program this beat or this and that, or just like basically like arranging it or like calling the shots while by Stevie and Clevey were probably actually coming up with the beats. But I'm sure sometimes King Jammers would have actually made his own beats and like played some of the keyboards and drum machines himself. This one is the last of the King Jammy series I've been playing, and this one came out in 1989, and this is, it says on here, produced and arranged by King Jammies, and this is the last one of the King Jammies Sky Blue label. Well, that's one strip back rhythm coming out of Waterhouse, Kingston, Jamaica, West Kingston. That's the last of the King Jammies productions, and that was pretty heavy on the bass. I really enjoyed that one. Quite a sparse rhythm there. You're in tune to Jamaica Vinyl, where I'm featuring strictly 7-inch vinyl singles made in Jamaica, produced and pressed up in Jamaica from the decades running from the 60s through to the 70s, through to the 80s, and to the end of the 90s, and that's it really. It's really bookended by the beginning of the 60s and the end of the 1990s really. So now we're moving into all these different kind of smaller labels now, and probably more small time producers, but also some big time producers as well. So the first one of the series is of the Selector label, and this is a nice it's kind of like a sort of a pink label with piano keyboards on it, and this one came out in 1989, and it's quite funny. This is what it says on the label: unauthorized copying is jailhouse business, and it's called Scene Productions. This is made in Jamaica, and the version is by the 1-2 crew. Right, I'll play this one. Sometimes you get some kind of humorous stuff on these labels. It's kind of funny because there's no copyright. There wasn't any copyright in Jamaica anyway when the stuff came out. I think that's just a joke, really. Yeah, strictly drum and bass with a few keyboards thrown in there. That was off the Selector label. It was produced by just scene productions, and the version was by the 1-2 crew. So a lot of the information about this stuff is very, very hard to get, and you just can't get any in very, very small amount of information. Almost no information really on the internet about these different producers, different labels and stuff. So I'm just been getting back into my library and doing like a bit more reading up about the stuff. So the only information you can get about these artists is really in the form of printed pages, book form and that. So it's kind of refreshing really that knowing that you can't, that not everything is actually available on the internet, and you do actually have to resort to their physical format of books and that to find out about the stuff. Right, okay, you're in tune to Stephanie taking 3 till 10, and this is Jamaican Vinyl. And the next one we've got is on the Music Master label, and this is by Witty, who's a pretty reasonably big producer in Jamaica in the 70s, and I think in the mid to late 80s he moved his studio over to New York and started producing and releasing music from New York. A lot of producers left Jamaica in the mid 80s or around like the 80s due to a lot of political unrest and violence and stuff, so they ended up moving to America because it's sometimes a bit dangerous to actually to be there in Jamaica. So this is by Witty when he was producing in Jamaica on his Music Master label. I hope you enjoy this one. Coming to you live from Queen Street, Masterton. Right, I have to be pretty quick taking the needle off these records, because when they get into the center, quite often, pretty much all of these Jamaican vinyl 7s, the needle or the groove just runs straight into the paper label, and it can just mash up the stylus a bit. So I have to be pretty quick and take the needle off. Right. That was a massive rhythm in Jamaica, very, very popular rhythm. And I'm not too sure who came up with that rhythm first. It might have been King Tubby's, who also, like King Jammy's, produced from the Waterhouse area, and that was Whitty's version of that rhythm. And I know that in Jamaica, if you came out with a really, really good rhythm, you had to really swamp the whole market with that rhythm, and put a lot of different artists on that rhythm, because straight away, because there wasn't any copyright in Jamaica in those times, anybody could make their own version of that rhythm, and depending how good your version was, and depending what kind of artists you could get on that version, that's who sold the most records and that. So you had to be like pretty quick, because it was really, really like a free-for-all, like the Wild West out there with these releases and stuff. A lot of releases. So yeah, I think that was a Peeny rhythm, that one. All right, now we're on to the 16 Stars label. And who's this produced by? Lyrical Edwards Productions, yes. So this is a 16 Stars label. B-side, instrumental. And again, this one would come out in the mid-80s or late 80s, very early 90s. Computer rhythm, digital rhythm, drum machine and keyboards. And that's what keyboard bass line. Stripped back rhythms of the Jamaica. And that's off the Stick 16 Stars label. You can hear these real vinyl playing here because the snap, crackle and pop and on sort of varies from like pressing to pressing really. Some pressings are quite quiet and some are quite noisy, and most of these records they're like reasonably in good condition and reasonably clean, although I can't really wash any of these records because I tried washing some Jamaican singles a couple of times, and the water-based ink just like runs, so you can't put them in the kitchen sink and give them a good scrubbing, which is what I usually do with records. So with these you can't because the ink just runs on them. But mostly if I just give them a bit of a wipe down with a bit of cloth or t-shirt, they clean up quite nicely. But I guess it sort of adds to the atmosphere really, and that's what vinyl is. That's what vinyl does. Right, the next what is on the Stereo 1 label, and this one is produced by Clifton Henry and arranged by Steele & Clevey. Right, that's the production team that I was talking about before. And Steele & Clevey, they're like a production duo that did like a lot of recordings and like made like a lot of rhythm tracks for various artists and various studios and that, because these guys weren't under contract or didn't have to sign anything. They could just flip from studio to studio. They weren't tied down. Like no one was in those days was like really really tied down by any kind of contract in Jamaica. If there were any contracts, would have been just like some vague written piece or just a verbal contract and no lawyers involved or anything like that. So anyway, Steely was on keyboards, and both of these guys, they started out in the late 1970s, and Clevey was on the drum machine, and he actually pioneered the drum machine in Jamaica in the I think late 70s, probably early 90s actually. No, sorry, mid 80s. I'm getting a bit messed up on my decades here, but anyway, yeah. So, and I think like one of the most popular drum machines that was used in those days was a Roland drum machine. So that's probably like a lot of these rhythms you're hearing would have been made on the Roland drum machine. So anyway, this is on Stereo 1 label, just a white label with red print, and this is produced by Clifton Henry and arranged by Steele & Clevey. So obviously produced by means that Clifton Henry would have sat in the back and said, oh, how about this idea, or maybe try that idea and this and that. He sort of, he made it sort of basically made things happen, and Steele & Clevey would have actually done the physical stuff like making the beats up. Wow, you can hear this is a rough one. Surface-wise, I mean. Yeah, I like to play these records from edge to edge because sometimes you get some interesting little nuances right at the end of the record. Right, yeah, that was by this arranged by Steely and Cleaver, the quite a famous production duo. Steely on keyboards and Cleavy on drum machine. Right, you can see that was a bit rough, and it might have been made with recycled vinyl, because in Jamaica they used to anyway recycle all of their records. Like if a record didn't sell within, or single didn't sell like within 2 or 3 or 4, 5 months at least, that would go just straight back into the melting pot. Just get just like a big shredding machine. They just shred the vinyl up and melt it back down and make more records out of it. So the very resourceful country, and sometimes the recycled vinyl was a little bit rough, and used to hear rumours of sometimes you get bits of jandal appearing in like the surface of the records, but I haven't seen any. I haven't really ever seen anything that bad. Right, you're in tune to RFM 92.7, taking through till 10. This is the Jamaican vinyl with Stepper D taking through till 10, and this is another Steely and Cleavy production. This is actually on Steely and Cleavy's label, and arranged and produced by Steely and Cleavy for SNG Productions. And again, this is distributed by Dynamic Sounds, 15 Bell Road, which is like a massive pressing plant, one of the biggest pressing plants, vinyl pressing plants in Jamaica. Okay, there's no date on this one when it came out. I know on just about all of King Jammy's records, he's quite a meticulous guy, and he always put the date that record, or the year, like the year that record was released on. But pretty much all the other like the records, the 7-inch records, there's no date on it, as in like when it was released. It's quite a distinctly King Jammy's thing. Right, so this is on the Steely and Cleaver label, and this is the B-side instrumental. Probably came out early 90s. That's the slang tang rhythm. One of the first, and if not the biggest, computer-generated hits out there, which originated from King Jammy's studio, and that was, I think, that you hear a bit of ghost vocals on there, and that was Wayne Smith, who he actually came up with that rhythm, and that rhythm was actually a preset on an old Casio keyboard, and all it was just the bass line was in there, and they just like sped up the beat a bit, and that's how they come up with that rhythm. And when it was first played out in the dance, it was just like a massive hit, and they pretty much played that dub plate or that record, that version, all night. It was a massive hit. So that was Steely and Cleavy's version of that hit. So it wasn't the the exact recording of that Casio keyboard, which like the very first hit came out and with. But that's just another version. So like there was many different versions played of that slang tang rhythm, that bass line, massive bass line. Right. What we got next? We got the Fifth Avenue South presents, and this is arranged and produced by Fifth Avenue South. So I don't know who I haven't got any information about these guys, or whoever they are. But that's who did this one. And right, so I think this one, judging by the sound, this was a massive hit again in the late 80s. Wow, that's a very hypnotizing. I have to reach over and get this needle off the record. Very hypnotizing rhythm, and you might be thinking, well, how can something so repetitive actually work? Because I know that's a classic example of very, very repetitive rhythm. But what I'll do, I'll break the rules a bit because the rules are made to be broken, and I'm very rarely going to do this. I will only do this once. I'll actually play you the A side, so you can I'll just play you a bit of the A side so you can see how it actually does work, how the artist can actually DJ or sing over that rhythm, and how it works. Because this particular record was a massive hit in Jamaica, and in England, and in London, England, and in New York, America as well. So I'll just play a little bit of the A side just so you can see how it works. The DJ on this, or DJ singer, is Shaka Demus, and the track was called Spirit. So I'll just jump this right in the middle and you can have a little bit of a listen, then we'll get back to the B-sides. Actually, no, I'll start from the very beginning.
All people, I want to know what love we are dealing with. So want to follow me now. Hear this. Ba-dang, dang, dang. Now me calling all the people, make we live loving. Now we calling all the people, make we live loving. And now me calling all the people, make we live loving. Yes, me calling all the people, make we live loving. Now the spirit in me is moving just like a magnet. Everybody sing and dance now. This spirit in me is moving just like a magnet. Everybody come now, yes, it's moving here, it's moving there, yes, it's moving all over the atmosphere. And now the spirit in me is moving just like a magnet. Everybody jump and sing now, jump around and ball out. Spirit, knock tambourine and ball out. Spirit, drop in the dirt and ball out. Spirit, if you're in a church, you feel ball out. Spirit, spirit in me is moving just like a magnet. Everybody come sing now, spirit in.
So you can see how that works. I'll sing along there. I know that song word for word pretty much. Right, so I'll just play the B-side again so you can see, have another listen and see how it works. Yeah, simple thing. So you can see that's a classic example of a just strictly drum and bass, basic computer rhythm, written in the digital golden era, really, of the late 80s and early 90s, golden age of the digital computer era. Right, moving along now, we're going to go to a label. This is the Parish label, and this is produced and arranged by Edgar White. Okay, play this one. So this is quite a nice, well, it's not too bad a label. It's got like a ochre, like a sort of funny yellow colour with some palm trees on it, or coconut trees on it, and it's the Parish label. Right, you're in tune to Jamaican vinyl. Take you through some B-sides. And there's that rhythm again. We talked about, I think, a couple of weeks ago, Bob Marley and the Wailers, Hypocrite. That was a vocal version that came out in the late 60s. So it's one of my favorite all-time rhythms. Is that rhythm? It's one of my favorite records as well. Is that rhythm from Bob Marley and the Wailers? See them, hypocrite. Right, we got time for a couple more B-sides before I have to finish up. And this next one is on another lovely, awesome label. This is a Hummingbird label, and right, this is produced and arranged by Hummingbird Productions. All right, let's let this one run for a bit. Still in the computer and digital era. Late 80s, early 90s. Okay, you've been listening to Jamaican Vinyl. We've got time for one more, broadcasting live from Queen Street, downtown Masterton, on a very, 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 very cold evening. I think it's only about 2 degrees out there. So almost frost on the car kind of business. Right, this is the last tune. And I'll be back same time again next week. This one is on the Redman International label. And this is, we know it's produced by Redman. Right, I'll play this one. This will be the last one from me.
He's up! He's up! He's up! He's up!
Right, so I'm actually going to have to wind down with this tune, but I'll start the program off next week with this tune. So you've been listening to Jamaican Vinyl, Stippity, just talking about production studios, and the Jamaican music scene, recording scene anyway, in Jamaica, going through the 4 decades from the 1960s through to the 1990s. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the program, and I'll just leave you with this last tune.